Alright, so I'm starting my trip in Seoul. This is day 1 out of essentially 3. I'm technically staying here 4, but I'm leaving on the 4th, so 3 days, 3 nights essentially. And yeah, so far I am starting off pretty strong. It's relatively early. I took a 2-hour train to get here in the morning, and now I am basically in the heart of Seoul and everything, and this is just a little slice. I'll have pictures of all the other stuff probably before this. This is just a little area right outside of this little cafe, and I'm just taking a break because I've been doing a lot of biking, walking, and having a lemonade, which they still just call lemonade here, but it's always sparkling. I've noticed that. That's a thing in Korea. Lemonade's always sparkling. So anyway, where I am specifically, I take a look at my map, is Gyeongbokgung, and this is basically where the king and queen were back in the day. So yeah, pretty important and massive. It definitely reminds me of like the ending scene in Mulan, with the palace and like the big massive open courtyards with the relatively smaller buildings. And these buildings are definitely not as big. Unfortunately, Korea just does not have the history of China by comparison. It's still impressive, courtyards especially. And I'm also taking a guided tour with this little thing, and it's so cool. It's an audio tour, got the headphones plugged in, but this little thing has like a little camera at the end of it, where when I take my map and just put the pen to it, it'll start playing. And I've been walking around like getting the different little points, and it's really cool. So I can just stop it there. Unfortunately, it's raining a bit. It seemed like this entire week is going to be a bit ugly, so that's going to be awkward walking and biking around especially. Lame way to spend the summer break. Now granted, I don't think it was so much better back in Daegu. Daegu was also pretty cloudy and rainy, and it was pretty cloudy and rainy all the way getting up here. So yeah, I think it's just the rainy season for Korea. So is what it is. Anyway, I'm gonna keep walking around, taking some pictures, doing what I can, and I think my next stop, I'll be checking out like a little village or something. But yeah, this place has been very impressive so far. Even had some folks looking like guards out front, very much akin to like the guards outside of London Buckingham Palace, because they did not respond to me. I asked one of them if it was okay if I put my bike where I did. He took one small look and didn't say anything. I was like, that is a yes. So yeah, anyway, I'll be moving on, and yeah, hopefully getting some good video for today, and then good video over the next couple days. So yeah. Here's that massive courtyard I was talking about. Love the ancient and urban mixture going on, but it is massive and really cool to look at. So I was just in there's Bukchon village, and yeah, I didn't think it was good to take video there since it is still a residential area. It's not like old like where I went to Bulhong. People still very much living there, modern looking places, but the hill looked nice, so yeah, no video for that. Now there was a big gap between my last video and where I am now in the day, as you can tell by the light, sun's a lot lower. Actually just had dinner. And yeah, I was at the Bokjeon village way earlier in the day, and then the capital's castle, essentially, at the start. I've mostly the problem was that after the village, I went to N-Seoul, I believe it was called, and it was one of the big like art areas of the city, and I might not have just been like the most interesting part of it, because like there were a lot of like galleries, but like I was under the impression that there would be like a lot of like displays, and I saw maybe one, and it was fine. There were a couple others that I was like, I'm sure they were supposed to be there, so like I don't know, I might try and hit it up again tomorrow, but we'll see. Now the big reason why that was relatively close to the village. The reason why there's such a big gap now is I made a terrible mistake judging the distance of how far it was to my hostel and how far I could go on bike. It was far, because distance-wise, it wasn't that bad. The map did not account for mountains and hills, and what was going to be 5 kilometers, which I was confident in, even with my foldable bike with the small wheels, quickly turned into hell. Mom and Dad, you'll fondly remember Trash Truck Hill back in Griffith Park, and I was starting to get flashbacks of that. Although I did enjoy those times, whereas this hurt. The heat and the humidity did not help. So I'm back in my hostel now. I've mostly just kind of done some wandering around, a little bit of shopping that I was hoping to do, and then I got some dinner. Apparently the hostel that I'm near has a big I want to say Ugandan. It was an African country, I forget, but it seems to have a larger community of that when it comes to foreigners, due to an embassy. And they also have a lot of Turkish folks, because I think there is an embassy close by based on some of the subway maps I saw. And I don't see Turkish food around Daegu all that often, and I was really craving something like a gyro, or at least close to, since I know gyros are Greek. And it was tasty. It was really nice. It's definitely something I don't get a lot of, being in Daegu, and definitely not something you see a lot of in South Korea in general. So for today, I think I'm just going to be relaxing, recuperating, because there was a lot of traveling, a lot of bike riding that I'm going to be avoiding from here on, if I can. Like if it's close by, I'll bike, but I think I've moved away from like the city center for my hostel, so getting back to the city center, getting to like the outer parts of Seoul, like Gangnam, which I might go to, those I'll definitely be taking the subways, the bus, which I can kind of take my bike on, but it might be just easier for me to walk, for the most part. So now with that said, I have a wonderful view from the top of my hostel here. I got this nice little area with like just easy setup, drum barrels. You see a whole bunch. A little less over there maybe. A little up the hill. Now of course the city center I think is more that way and is over the hill that is kind of going upwards. I don't know what that art is. It's just a dude in a diaper. I don't know. But especially over here is a really nice view, I think. And they got a lot of pretty residential areas. Cool glass building, which I'm not 100% sure what it is. But yeah, so tomorrow I'll be doing a lot of the touristy stuff. There were a couple things that I had on my list for today, but I'm too tired at this point. So tomorrow, more touristy stuff. Taking more buses and subways by comparison. And then on Wednesday, I'll be doing a few more touristy things, but then I want to prepare for the evening because that is when I shall be watching a musical over at the Seoul Opera Center. And I don't know if I'll be able to take footage in there. I doubt it, but whatever pictures and whatever I can take, I'll definitely put it up. And then of course I'll go into more detail before and after the musical itself because I'm super psyched. Anyway, that's basically it for my first day. Hopefully I see some more cool stuff, and yeah, I'm looking forward to my 3-day trip in Seoul. All right, bye. So I'm on day 2, finally got a chance to stop. It's pretty loud being Seoul and all that. I'm currently in Myeongdong, and I'm trying to find what I was told was called like Cartoon Alley or something like that, or Street of Fun, something like that. Mainly because there's an artist that might still have a shop that I was very curious about. If you're familiar with the Korean... if you're familiar with the Korean animation, there she is. It is that artist. And if you are not familiar with There She Is, I would take half an hour out of your day to check it out. It's wonderful. Trying to see if I can still find that, but I might just move on. There's a really cool department store that I might check out. But Myeongdong, known for its shopping, lots of cool shops here. Very it just looks pretty nice. Just lots of big buildings, and yeah, I'll be doing at least a little bit of shopping, I guess, but yeah, the weather has kind of dictated a lot of what I'm doing today. I was gonna go on a nice little hike, but it was pouring rain at that time, and I'm feeling the drizzle now, but I was at least able to check out the market, got some nice lunch there. They were kind enough to wait for me because it was cash only. They didn't have cash, so that's a note for later in marketplaces. As for right now, I'm gonna figure out my next step, but I am gonna give it one more go at finding that artist alley. So yeah. Alright, so now I am at Namsan Park, which probably one of the bigger parks in Seoul, and above me, which you can kind of see, there we go, is Seoul Tower. Now, I don't think I'll be paying for that because it was already about 14 bucks to get up the cable car and another 14 bucks to look at the observation deck. So I don't know if I need to pay more money to be even higher at a very high place. With that said, here's the view that I already have without needing any of that. And what you're looking at now is basically the south side of Seoul. Yeah, this is still all Seoul. It's quite expansive. It'll have the different provinces, of course. I want to say that over there is Gangnam, as in Gangnam style, yes. And I think this area, like this spot in particular, is very, like, it's very much a couples spot, because I think they semi-accept it because I saw a mascot holding one, but apparently it's a thing to put locks at different parts. Now, granted, I think they're supposed to be designated parts, because I saw a sign coming down to the quiet area that I'm in now saying no locks. And yeah, that has not stopped a lot of people. Like, a bunch of shenaniganizers out here. I'll get some more pictures because, like I said, I'm looking at the south side, um, and I think the busier, more interesting side is the northern part, and more expansive. Yeah, coming from the Texas boy, not used to this. I'm sure somebody from like New York might be, but Texas boy, not used to this. Heck, even my time in LA, like, it was a lot. I mean, I feel like LA is the closest analog. I got no comparison. This is big. Alright, so it's day 3 of my Seoul trip, and right now I'm starting my day a little late, mostly because I was out late with some of the folks at the hostel, and very sweet people, but loud bar is not my scene. So, still very late night. Regardless, I am here at the Changdeokgung Palace, and weirdly I had an easier time reading that in Korean than in the English letters, but I am here, not really doing a tour or anything, or even like the audio tour that I did on the first day, just kind of wandering and really admiring the architecture, and it's very pretty. Like this, compared to the first palace that I was at, which very much felt more like a castle where people worked and like just did their jobs. And I did forget to mention that palace was where they developed the Korean language that they have today called Hanguk, the Korean alphabet, because originally they were using a lot of Chinese characters, but making Hanguk helped them define themselves more as like an independent nation and not just a colony, which was super cool to. Like, I kind of knew that part, but I didn't know where. So being where it happened was really interesting. This, however, I think it's like the 4th largest palace in the country. And this one feels like it was more lived in. Like this feels more like an estate as opposed to like a government building. Now granted, there are the parts that do feel like government building, but like the buildings, the courtyards that I've been walking around and taking some pictures of, these feel more like places that were lived in. So like that's a pretty large building, and it looks like that was more for like government stuff. But then over here you have these open areas with some gardens, and over there you definitely see a little bit what looks to be a little bit more like residential, like an open area, and this definitely looks more like a manor by comparison. Over there you definitely get the same feel. Past that little gate, there's a smaller, cute little building over there. On top of that, I also think this is more residential because towards the back, they have this area called the Secret Gardens, which definitely seems like it was something that a ruler established. But that had like mandatory guided tours as opposed to like admission, so I didn't want to bother. Still though, it's really pretty around here, and I'm gonna keep this up. So now I'm at the Dongdaemun Park. It's supposed to be like a history and culture park. So a lot of like architecture, art, sculptures, and museums. And I was not. I knew about the Tim Burton exhibit just from like social media and things like that. I didn't expect to like stumble across it. Like I figured I was gonna have to try and find it later. But no, it was really interesting. So unfortunately, I couldn't really take any video or pictures inside, but I took a lot of pictures or whatever I could of a lot of the exhibits that were just outside, things like that. Two things that I will say about the exhibit itself, because it covered a lot of history that I was not aware of with Tim Burton. But two things. One, Tim Burton's style was obviously it was unique, but it extended a lot farther than I expected it to, because there was a lot of like storyboards and things like that. Even for projects that were like that didn't appear to be his style, his storyboards showed that style. So that was fascinating. Because like even like Batman Returns, and like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, things that were like live action where he couldn't directly inject his style into it, his storyboard showed it. Second thing, Tim Burton is a boob man. I am not going to expound on that. I am giving no context. You can look that up yourself. I can promise you. You will find things that are like, yeah, definitely. Either that or a leg man. Depends on your outlook. But yeah, so far it's been fascinating. I wish I could have showed more, but in terms of what I can show, I'm outside. The architecture on this place is super cool. And it goes down a bit as well, but this is just outside. A lot of sculptures to walk around in. And I guess there's an upper area that I'll explore a little bit. If there's anything interesting, I'll take pictures. But yeah, so I'm just gonna explore some more and see what there is. Okay, so this is basically capping off my trip to Seoul. It is my third day, and really tomorrow I'm just going to be traveling back home relatively early, so not much else left. However, I am capping off today by visiting the Seoul Arts Center, which, as my pictures have shown so far, is quite massive. Going down this road opposite of the last picture I took, straight ahead is the Opera Center, which is where I will be specifically. The left, we have the recital hall where they do a lot of the actual music practice and whatnot. And then to my right is a calligraphy museum, which, given the time I have left over, I might go ahead and check out, but we'll kind of see. I might wander around the Opera Hall a little bit more because it was pretty impressive. As for why I'm here specifically, I am fortunate enough to be viewing the Death Note musical, which, for those that are uninitiated, Death Note is an anime that was very popular in the early 2000s, mid 2000s-ish. Edgy, very, very dark. So it got quite a following. Now, it's for those exact reasons that I was perplexed to find out that it got a musical. And being an anime, it originated in Japan. However, it became popular enough because of its music style, I guess, to jump the ocean a little bit and got a following here in Korea. Now, what is also perplexing about this is that it never left those two countries in terms of an actual performance. It's only ever been performed in Korea and Japan. However, there is a English recording, audio only, but so no performance, of the Death Note musical performed by a bunch of Broadway people, of all things. Like, not just some amateurs, like they actually got some names behind it. So I'm gonna try and put a link in the description for the introduction song, not the overture, but the opening song, "Where Is the Justice?" And it is far better than it has any right to be. I know the lyrics way more than I should, but yeah, that is pretty much what I'm hoping for tonight. Now, of course, it is going to be performed in Korean, so basically a lot of my enjoyment will come from seeing the performance itself, knowing the song lyrics already, and just seeing it being performed live with the acting that comes with a musical and not just the song performance. As my family is very well aware, there's a bit of a musical background, not in performing, never grew up a theater kid, but just because of like watching a lot of musicals, singing a lot of musicals, like in the comfort of one's own home. So I'm very excited to see this because of that, because these are all original songs. It's not a cover of any kind. It's a very much story-driven musical, like, and for those that know me, I'm a very big fan of that. So anyway, I am on a tangent like this because I do have so much time. I got here basically an hour early, just in case things went awry, but it went pretty simply, pretty smoothly. So basically now I'm just kind of killing time. I'm sure they'll let us at least get seated in the next half hour, 45 minutes maybe. But in the meantime, I'll be exploring, just kind of maybe getting some more pictures. But at the very least, I'm very excited. And one of my coworkers actually saw this yesterday. She was on a separate trip than me completely, so we've been doing completely different things. But she did let me know that it was good. So hearing that, I'm very excited. And yeah, I'll be giving my opinion on it afterwards because it'll be pretty late by the time I get out of here. Okay, just walking out of the musical, beating a lot of the crowd. Wow. Looking back on it, that might be one of my first live musicals that I've seen, and I'm very glad that it was that one. I was very fortunate to know the source material, both the anime and the English version of the music, so I had at least some idea of like what was happening, but the performance was what I was there for, and it was amazing. My arms were numb from clapping by the end of it. So yeah, if you ever have the opportunity to listen to the musical or see it, which might be even harder, please do. It's so good. I think this was worth the trip as a whole. I mean, I'm glad I came to Seoul seeing everything. This was a perfect way to cap it off. So I'm gonna head back, and yeah, that is my Seoul trip. So hoping that I can do some more cool stuff here in South Korea, and this is gonna be a highlight for me.